Do you require any graphic design work done? A North London agency full of Gooners. Oh, and one lonely Watford fan. We'll be happy to help. Go to www.stonecreativedesign.com and mention Gooner Ramble for a 10% discount on your first project.
Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host Giles, coming to you on the back of a really disappointing, chastening 2-1 defeat at the hands of the grand old team, Everton Football Club. We try and keep our spirits up, and to help me do that today I've got regulars Mark.
Hello mate.
Full of the joys of winter.
Oh, definitely mate, definitely. I didn't watch it last night, you see, I've watched it today, so I'm still frothing at the mouth now.
We've got the main man, Clive. You're right, sir.
Yeah, I'm good, and I watched it today. I think I'm a bit upset, but maybe not quite as upset as Mark, but let's see how we go.
And also special guest with us tonight, friend of the pod, Hugh Wizzy. Hello, Hugh. How you doing, mate?
Good evening, my good sir. How are you doing? I'm very well.
Have you laid off the drink now? Have you put down the bottle, the gin?
Yeah, I should say it's strictly coffee I'm drinking, just to stress that we don't have a drinking problem.
Good stuff. All right, so let's kick off and get right into it. Start with our guest, Hugh. First of all, I want to ask you about your thoughts about last night's game, especially the way we sort of let it all kind of go to pot, really, after getting ourselves into a good position.
Yeah, very disappointing, obviously, to lose. But, I've seen some slight overreactions. I'm not going to lie. I do feel that this being the first defeat since the first game of the season in the league, at least, that you can't really complain that much. And if we are to complain, yeah, it's obviously about a more tactical aspect of it, not so much the general direction that the club's obviously going in, which I think is really positive, especially with the games coming up in the next few weeks. Not to write any of those clubs off or anything, but on paper at least those games are looking very winnable, and we should be in a very strong position, especially if we can get some kind of result against City. So to focus on the Everton game, I would say Arsenal, I think Clive tweeted this, that Arsenal really are a moments team this season, and last night most of our moments happened in the last minute, and unfortunately
credit Everton, to be fair,
the two most clear-cut chances somehow haven't gone in, and we were then immediately denied a penalty, which from the angle I saw, it was so stonewall. I was really questioning how he carried on and let play go on. But anyhow, those moments have been kind of carrying us as well, because the performances themselves haven't been all that for quite some time, I don't think. And even though the Koscielny-Mustafi partnership does look good, I have to say that we are consistently having bad moments as well. Not to point the finger at individuals just yet, unless that is the aim of this conversation. But there are obviously like a few people who are more culpable than others. But yeah, disappointing to lose. But I just don't see this as the end of the world, because we're in a really good place right now.
Clive, you want to come in? Your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, mate, I was really confident on the day before the game, and as soon as I saw the Everton's team, I suddenly got all these nerves, right? And my real issue, I was talking to Cookie before the game, right? I said to him, I'm a bit concerned that Gareth Barry's not playing, and he said, "Oh, Gareth Barry's a solid pro, blah blah blah." I said, "No. I'm worried because McCarthy, sorry." He's more mobile, and what he's done by picking McCarthy and Valencia, he basically speeded the team up a little bit more, and Rallis has been lagging a little bit, and I was really concerned. And the reason why, because I think Koeman has a style, and what he does, he's quite clever on this. What he does is he goes long ball, and what most teams do is they stay away from Koscielny because he is super slick. But what he does, he actually attacks Koscielny because he knows Koscielny's value. He knows Koscielny is our person that cleans everything up and tidies everything up. But he attacks him. He did it last year with Shane Long, and he really ran down that inside left back channel inside Monreal's shoulder. And he done it again last night. And he doubled it up with Valencia. He went down that channel. And it puts a lot of onus on other players in our team to be leaders, and it puts a lot of onus on other people to win the second ball. And so I was really concerned. I suddenly got nervous. I really got nervous for the game. And I just reminded myself Southampton the 4-0 last year, reminded myself of Koeman's record. And I thought, you know what, this is going to be tough. And then you suddenly realise that Everton had not been beaten at home. And you think, where did that confidence actually come from? You know, was it really, you know, from a strong base? And as you spotted it, right? I do talk about moments, and we've won the moments this year, and we're really efficient. But really, Arsenal's trick is flow. And what Koeman does, he sends out dogs, and he interrupts our flow. And if you interrupt our flow and we don't execute on the moments, nights like last night can happen, right? So yeah, it's just that's my original summary. I've got a lot more to say, but I don't want to
hog the mic. You want to hog the mic too much for once.
I'll hold it for now.
Mark, come in, mate.
Yes, mate. It's a really weird game. I mean, the thing is, yeah, I understand completely what Clive said there. You know, I mean, Koeman does seem to be able to get under Wenger's skin from a playing point of view rather than, you know, just winding him up off the pitch. And he does pick his team specifically to play against us. And it's a great point about, you know, Barry not being in there, which would have suited us a bit more, I think, rather than MacArthur, who is a rabid dog, definitely. And yeah, they busied up Koscielny and used the other striker to cause a lot of other issues. But you know, when you go to Everton, you know what you're going to get. It's a game like that you used to get at Upton Park, and this is why I think Everton need to be careful about moving grounds, because they may learn from, you know, what's happening to West Ham. Is that crowd will get on top of you, and we did all right. 15 minutes, we quietened them down, and we knocked the ball around, you know, which took the wind out of their fans' sails a bit, and we get ahead, and then we just seem to drop off and think job done. And I think it's a, you know, I'm not going to go mad. Yeah, it's only the second defeat of the season and that, but I think it's more the manner of it. It's when you see, you know, if we were playing a great team and they played us off the park and they scored great goals that, you know, you'd have to go, you know, that's a corking finish, that, you know, no keeper's going to save that, you know, we can't defend that. Then you'd understand it a bit more. But when you see us losing games in fairly similar manners, you just start to think that, again, you know, we'll probably have an all right season, but we'll come up short, because it's those moments that Clive says we've played well so far this season. It's those other moments, like when you go away to Everton and you get one up and you need to, you know, then roll your sleeves up a bit, that we seem to not be able to win. And you know, it's just Groundhog Day again to me. And we never seem to learn. And it's not like it's a new manager who's, you know, we've got to give him time to learn. We've been watching this for years. So that's what really worries me about it.
For me, as you said, I'm going to take what Clive and Hugh said, but for me, as you said, Mark, we started the game off pretty well. And I think, apart from the initial first few minutes, I think Everton became scared. They became kind of fearful and they retreated. They were pressing at first and they just retreated into their own half. And you know, they were trying to block our lines of attack, and we profited from that eventually through some, you know, good pressing from Coquelin and co. And then, as you said, we just sort of like rested on our laurels. And I think that, you know, the crowd became frustrated, you know, and started to encourage the team, and it became a backyard brawl. That's why I could see it. That's my explanation for it. It became a backyard brawl. Players like what's his name, Idrissa Gueye and McCarthy and all those guys started to get in amongst our team, started to block off the space. We started to drop deeper, and I think Özil started to drop really deep to collect the ball, and sometimes that's because he's trying to alleviate the pressure off his mates, and sometimes it's because the ball is just not finding him. And that just started to happen more and more throughout the half, and it became Everton's kind of game. You've got the 12th man of Goodison Park under the lights. We just didn't really adjust. We didn't react as we wanted to, as I expected us to. I know that we've been winning games in moments this season, and as Clive has said, it's been more of that than losing games in the moments. But we just didn't, we
didn't feel the game.
We really didn't. And it became, like I said, it was a backyard ball, which they were more up for. I don't think it was decided by tactics. Like, set pieces may be one thing, but not necessarily tactics or personnel. It's just that they wanted it more than us, I think.
I think that's really that's a real injustice to Koeman's work, to be honest, because he's very efficient at understanding that Arsenal do work on the tempo, the flow, having control of the game, and people like Idrissa Gueye in the middle is an unbelievable signing.
Absolutely.
They're perfect for literally stopping Arsenal doing what they do best.
But what I'm saying is, Hugh, is that in those first 15, 20 minutes, they retreated. They became scared. They were unsure of what they were meant to be doing. You could see Koeman on the sidelines getting really, really frustrated with how they were reacting to how we were controlling the game. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as we scored, or pretty soon after we scored, they started to, I don't know if it was the crowd or what, I don't know what happened, but something triggered in them, and they became a different team.
I think that as part of that has got to be like they can sense the fact that we're either backing off or suddenly do become nervous when we go up.
Yeah, they flew into a few challenges, right? And the crowd got up, and we did not execute. So when they pressed on to us, I actually thought our big issue at the start of the game, though we were controlling it, the big issue for me was the start of the game. So we looked really good, but we were actually quite inefficient and quite wasteful and quite inaccurate. We could have had many more situations. We didn't quite find the right pass. And Özil was a big contributor to that. And I don't expect him to head it out of his box against centre halves, but I do expect him to find 15-yard passes against the grain in triangles, because that's what he does, right? And that's what he's done all year. And I judge him on that. And we were quite inaccurate. I thought our timing was off. I thought our wide men were working very, very hard. I thought they were hard to find. I don't think they connected to our middle two. I thought Xhaka did very, very well, and so did Coquelin, but they weren't supported. They had very few passing options. So our combinations became longer. And once our combinations became longer, then we become fight targets. And once you become fight targets, and Clattenburg, I tweeted out that Clattenburg, sometimes he gets drunk on the moment. He gets drunk on the atmosphere, and he wants to join in. And Everton turned this game into an FA Cup tie. All right, I don't know why this reminded me of York City. Remember that one, Mark, many years ago? York City.
In the snow.
You could see it slipping away from you. You could just see it slipping away. I don't know why that came to my mind, right? York City away. But we were top dogs then. And suddenly you just watch this team get stuck into us, and you're thinking, you know what, this could go wrong. There's no football here. This is just a momentum. You've run into a train at the wrong time. A few players had things to prove, like McCarthy. He had things, sorry, I could get his name wrong. He had things to prove. Lynch has been he had things to prove. Ross Barkley's coming. He had things to prove. Jack Yelka had been dropped for Funes Mori. He had things to prove.
Ashley Williams had been questioned as a signing as well.
He'd been questioned, and they were all struggling. And suddenly they were allowed to turn it into an arm wrestle. And what do we do then? I mean, this is the question for all of us, right? When that happens, what do we do? Because I didn't see us shirking. I saw us being inaccurate and not being as precise as we needed to be, and not being as feeling the game and recognising we're on top here. One goal's not enough. We need two. Then we shut the ground. We shut them up, and people are getting their hot dogs early. That's what we need to do, and we didn't do that. We didn't feel the game. We didn't feel the requirements, in my opinion, and we allowed ourselves to get muscled into a 50-50 competition.
Going back to your point that I wasn't trying to do Koeman and his tactics and injustice. Going back to your point about the way he set up, he was obviously quite he said it before the game that they had to be a compact, aggressive, and so on and so forth. And what I noticed was that was how they were playing. They were squeezing the lines between defence and the centre halves and the fullbacks, and again between the defence and the midfield. So therefore, we couldn't really get out, as Clive was saying, we couldn't get our 1-2s going, our triangles going. Were you surprised that we didn't find a way to respond to that, or we couldn't find the formula to unlock that puzzle?
Not particularly, if I'm perfectly honest, because whenever I see teams get even slightly aggressive with Arsenal, making sure that you get to the first ball. If not, then 100% there's two men on the second ball. Always wholehearted in the challenge, all this type of thing. Arsenal have a tendency to not be that, and unfortunately, as much as I'm a massive admirer of his work, Özil's a classic example yesterday of just shirking responsibility, and it's very easy to generalise, and again, like I said, point the finger. I don't really want to do that, but he also had a massive chance to,
push someone up.
Yeah, and ultimately that is what you are paid for. So it's not just. I really have an issue as well with, I think, not particularly what Clive is saying, but the fact that people seem to assume that because he's a pass master, he's only responsible for picking people out. You are going to have to realise that Alexis Sanchez can't really work for both of you, and ultimately that is what he's doing. That is what he's ending up having to do, and that is taking away from what has made us so good. So, as much as Walcott was looking like he was working hard, he was incredibly inefficient yesterday, and it's one of the worst games I've seen from Özil. He was making himself look like a really bog standard player, and as much as you are going to have games like that, therein lies fault.
Mark, I want to bring you back in. Let's talk about the first moments. I mean, obviously we scored the goal, but I want to talk about the equaliser and the lack of defensive application on our part. Leighton Baines got down the left, shaped to go on to play it onto his left, cuts it back onto his right. Theo, having got back there, allows him to cut back onto his right. There's no real pressure on the ball, and then it's an in-swinger. Seamus Coleman is not picked up, running in late, knocks it home. Why were we ball watching? We seem to be sort of static. I mean, how did you go on?
It's look, Walcott. When you watch Walcott, he's a long way towards the centre of the pitch when the ball goes out wide to Baines. But he gets over there, and I guarantee you that about 10 yards before he got to Baines, every single Arsenal fan in the stadium and at home is just going, stand him up. Yeah? Because that's what everybody would know. Yeah? Don't go charging in. If you go charging towards him, you just make it easy for him to do the feint, sidestep the other way, and then he's left him for dead. It's criminal. It's criminal. It's Theo Walcott in a nutshell. Headless. And I think Hugh was very kind about not picking up Clive's comment about Özil. I won't be quite as kind, but we'll probably come to that later on. But you have to work hard as a team, and give Theo his credit. And I said this on the last pod I was on. He's worked hard this year, but he's fucking Clive would go mental at one of his under-16s or whatever they are on a Saturday or Sunday if they did that defending. It's negligence. It's just negligence. It's pathetic. The cross, great cross comes in. MacArthur. Is it MacArthur or is it McCarthy?
McCarthy.
Right. McCarthy gives Koscielny a little bump, but the two centre halves are really kind of nowhere. Once the ball's over them, Monreal's got two at the back, and Coleman's the one who's come ghosting in and nods it in. It's just this piss poor defending. There's no excuse for it. But it doesn't happen if Theo does his job properly.
Koscielny did get a cheeky nudge. He did get a cheeky nudge.
Mark,
He did. And I mean, but that's cute. You know, we got a corner up the other end when Alexis did it to Jagielka. So, you know, I mean, it's dark arts.
Part of the game.
And playing some...
I really do think it's just really like unintelligent from Theo, because he's working hard. Everyone can see that. But then he's clocked off and he's suddenly got complacent that Baines isn't going to use his right foot, and backed off enough for him to have enough space to put in the perfect cross.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Anyone knows you do not, you know, if you're going out to that man, you don't go charging in at pace with, you know, and not being able to put the brakes on in good time to just stand him up and make him think. Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that Baines left-footed. He's obviously got a right foot as well, but you keep him, on his right, but you keep him on his right and make him come back inside. You don't let him come in and leave you for dead with the space to bang a lovely in-swinging cross in. I mean, seriously, I'd like to think somebody would have spoken to Theo about it, but I'm just never convinced, to be fair, that there's any sort of accountability at the club.
Clive?
Shall I tell you what happened, right? So some marked highlights, right? When you get a diag like that, what you got to do, as the ball's going over, you got to travel. So Theo's got into his head this year. He's getting a lot of praise for working hard, and he's working very, very hard defensively, right? So I think he's actually working harder defensively than he is offensively, but we'll talk about that a bit later on. So the ball's come over his head, and he's travelled, and he's actually touched the ball with his left foot. He's tried to nick it, but he hasn't worked out, and he's hit Baines, and Baines has come in. The moment Baines has come in, let's go back. So what Theo should do, he should go over, he should adjust his feet, slow down, adjust his feet, and you show him one way. So you adjust your feet and you create a race. So either you show him inside or you show him outside, but you shape your body to show him one way. You don't dive in, try to gamble. He lost the gamble. He tried to nick it. He got a touch. Baines falls to his way onto his right foot. The moment Baines is on his right foot, what's got to happen is our centre-halves have got to get out. They have got to get out. And I felt that Everton did really well putting our centre-backs under pressure. They went long ball. And I felt there was a moment there where we froze. And if you think where actually Coleman heads it in, he was on the 6-yard box line, and behind him was Lukaku. And so there was 2 players in our 6-yard box ready to head that ball in. That tells me we are not positioned correctly. We are not being proactive. We are not clearing our box. We are not creating. We should have created an offside situation there. The moment Theo's got, I know Baines was quite a quick release, but you've got as that ball's travelling, diag, you've got to be repositioning yourself. It really surprised me. Not only that, I don't worry about losing a header, but where we lost a header in the penalty area. That's what surprised me about this. So multiple mistakes, diagonal, long distance. You had time to see it. Centre backs go to the left. He's lost a challenge. What you say in football. And I heard Sean Dyche say the other day. You got to defend the maybes, right? You defend the maybes. So as soon as that's come in there, you got to think, well, actually, what if Theo loses it? I better get to the edge of my area, right? And Theo's lost it, and I'm still on my penalty spot, dropping back. That's stress. That's what stress does to you. That's what pressure does to you. That's what Koeman's long ball tactics done to you. That's made you a little bit tired 2 minutes before half time, and you've not cleared your box. Right? So most goals have 3 or 4 mistakes in, and that was it for me. As the diag went, we did not reposition. We did not defend the maybes. We sat in, having a breather. When the cross came in, if we lose that ball, any contact goes into the net. And then that's what happened.
Let's talk about set pieces. Some people, from what I can see online, people don't seem to be sure what kind of system we're deploying. Some people think it's zonal. Some people say it's a bit of mixed, a bit of this and a bit of that. Clive, what do you see? How do you see Arsenal set up in a defensive system when we're defending set pieces, and what are we doing not quite right?
You know what? I look at things over a longer period, right? For me, it's where we are and how aggressive we are. So it's all about, I call it taking the space in front, right? We need to take the space in front.
Pick one of them out.
The air away from them. I thought we were a little bit passive yesterday. I'm not
really
worried
get it on target,
about,
but that's better play from Arsenal.
I prefer a system of zonal front
Good
post.
strike, good save.
Zonal on
It's a good height for Czech, but he had to palm it away. It was Jagielka up there.
I got man-to-man on danger.
Jagielka it was.
Right?
Little snapshot, just falls to him. Doesn't know much about it. He just swings a leg at it. Better check this time. How is it away?
Statistics are, I don't know how many headed goals we conceded this season. That might have been one of the first couple. Right, so we're not. This is not a problem that's been existing for too long. I know we haven't kept a clean sheet for about 7 or 8
games.
15 games. Thank you. I heard it today. I thought about, and but we haven't conceded many headed goals this season. Right, so I don't see. I saw us winning a lot of headed challenges in the middle of the pitch. For me, what we missed was, I think, a little bit of communication. Was it from our goalkeeper? Was it from missing Mustafi's organisational skills? Because he's not the greatest in the air, so maybe he organises a bit better to keep people away from his goal, because he's only about 5'10", 11. So he has to be really good communication-wise. I just felt we were a little bit reactive and passive to the situation. But you know what, Everton, you just give credit to them, right? They overloaded with Coleman. Where does he come from? Right back in open play, heading the ball in the 6-yard box, and you know what, he can't concede. Right, so I'm a little bit less dramatic about conceding a headed goal from a corner.
Hugh.
Hello, mate.
West Ham, we played Xhaka and Coquelin. Am I right, in the centre of midfield? Is that right? I think that was our centre half.
Yep,
centre midfield pairing. Yeah,
it was. Yep.
The Stoke again. Who did we play centre midfield? Was it Xhaka and was it Coquelin again, or Xhaka and yeah? Last night it was Xhaka and Coquelin.
Is this a trick question?
Well, I want to know how you. I mean, what do you put down our lack of real authority in the centre of midfield last night? I mean, I know Koeman set out. You said, Koeman set out in a certain way. He's put his dogs of war in there and whatnot. But we've come off the back of 2 or 3 really resounding games, really resounding results. The 5-1 at West Ham. We turned it around against Stoke at home. We're coming into this game. You would have thought that these two are now they're settled in as our number one pairing for now, at least until Santi or whoever comes in. They didn't really gain control. I think Coquelin did his usual stuff, which was pressing the ball high, which helped us gain the free kick for the first goal and whatnot. And for me, I don't know, Xhaka wasn't really his usual self. I thought he kind of dived in a bit too much last night. He was on his back a lot of the time, and I don't like. Me and Clive had discussions about this, and I don't like that. I don't like him sliding in too often. It gives it's just a bit too, leaves us a bit too open at times. But do you think that was just a blip? As far as you're concerned, are they still the two that you'd go to? Are they still your go-to too? Was
it a blip? I mean, I personally thought Xhaka was quite good. He did lose the ball very, very seldomly, if I can remember correctly. And I don't know, perhaps fans these days, we expect this like perfect 38 ball move where no one loses the ball and someone does a fucking sombrero on the way in. Like, it's going to get ugly. And yesterday you wanted 2 players like Coquelin and Xhaka because it was going to get rough and they were going to bring it to us. And ultimately we've come out worse, like we said, from two headers that randomly we go missing for. However, I believe that Coquelin's job is to seek and destroy, basically. And Xhaka's job is more to have a little bit more about him, picking people out, quickly moving the ball either side to side, or hopefully, as he is much more adept than Elneny, Ramsey or Coquelin at, going straight direct forward. And I thought he did quite well. However, part of that part of that controller system that those two have now got going on, and they are centrifugal to everything we're doing, basically, where Coquelin's job should be to get it, give it, and Xhaka can then pick it out. We've got another machine in there who's meant to be pulling wizardry out, and too often yesterday he was just, I don't know, what's the word? Lackadaisical. It's like he wasn't up for it as much. And I think they picked on that when there were a few of them who were giving Özil some, some bother, shall we say.
Half time.
If they can, there's an analogy out there for this, but if I smell blood, then I'm going to be able to, I'm going to be able to spot you, basically.
Like a shark.
Yesterday was an animalistic affair. It was a very entertaining game, I've got to say. But were Arsenal really able to grab the game by the horns and whatnot, and actually then do their artistic thing on it? No, not at all. And part of that is because I think a couple of them weren't really, like you were saying, as up for it, I guess, showing that real energy, that real get-go to get to the first and second ball.
Okay. Mark, let's talk about Özil. I mean, wasn't his best game last night. He's central to how we play. So if Xhaka's having his hands full, protecting the defence and trying to, pick 30-yard diags out, what's his role? What's Özil's role? He's not finding the space. Clive has already said on social media today that our problem was wide players and not finding the wide players, or wide players not getting in the right areas. So, he's not. Özil hasn't been at his elite best recently, has he? And what do we put that down to?
Well, Özil's got a goldfish, and he loves his goldfish very much. And I think he's upset about the fact that Alexis is going to get a banner for his dogs, but his goldfish gets no kind of recognition. So I think he's sulking about that. I'm going to go back. Listen, I want to talk about Mesut Özil. Look, Mesut Özil, he had a really, really poor game last night. Clive can expand on maybe some of the factors that helped to that, but he definitely didn't look as if he was particularly interested on a cold Tuesday night in Liverpool, to be fair. But I want to go back to what Clive said earlier when he said, I don't expect Mesut Özil to be heading the ball away. That's bollocks. That is, I've never, it's complete cobblers. No, I don't expect that's not his job. It's not what we paid 42 million for him. But when he's on the pitch, I expect him to do whatever he has to do. Yeah, if he has to put his bollocks in the way of a shot from fucking Cavani or anyone.
What I meant, Mark, was I don't judge him heading the ball out of the box.
No, I'm not judging him on that. I'm judging him on the fact.
I judge him on being accurate in his pass.
That's fine, and he certainly wasn't last night. He wasn't last night. But
honestly, I don't expect any of our players to duck out of a ball. Right?
No.
I'm not an idiot.
And he's not solely responsible for that goal last night, but he hasn't covered himself in glory with his defending. I mean, if you're going to do zonal, then if that's Özil's zone, then he's got to do a little bit more to protect it than he did last night. But he's not the only person to blame for that. If we talk about the second goal, I'm actually going to hold fucking Koscielny responsible for the whole second goal, to be fair. But Özil, he needs to do more. But then whenever you get any criticism of him, you obviously, as the song says, you just don't understand what a wonderful footballer is, and that he should be exempt from any criticism of having a poor game last night and contributing to some very poor defending for a second goal. So, I just wanted to take that point of Clive's, which he's explained now, and fair enough. But I would expect any Arsenal player to do anything they need to in the 85th minute of a game that we're drawing away, a tough old game we're sort of hanging on, that they need to do. And unfortunately, we've got far too many players who either haven't got the fucking brains to do it or haven't got the bollocks to do it. So anyway, that's my take on Özil. Now, Clive, I'm sure, will explain why it might not necessarily have been completely his fault why he had a stinker last night.
Go for it, Clive.
No, I didn't think he played very well. I didn't think he played very well.
Can I just say that, sorry to interject, Rob, but the thing about Özil is he is such a wonderful player, such a wonderfully unique player that, and this might like make you cringe, but he kind of is exempt from most criticism, except for the fact that 90% of the time he is so good at what he does that he's kind of allowed to get away with not going in as fully, or, you know, I don't really want Mesut Özil chasing back even as much as he does sometimes these days, to be honest. But he's got a different role as well this season. So I think with that come those responsibilities. And yesterday, unfortunately, he was kind of doing neither. He was like not taking his opportunities, and he wasn't doing the things that he's best at, even the simple things, that well. So I think that for once, he is allowed to be criticised, but normally he's on another planet and sees things, you know, that other people don't see, which is a little bit cliched, but realistically he does. And so I feel like he should be given kind of a more special kind of, not exemption, but just a general, like, bigger allowance, you know?
Yeah, like tax avoidance. Okay.
It's a big part of how we play, right? Yeah. So if you define Arsenal's style, there's two players that have defined our style this season, right? And what we've done, we've moved them closer together, Özil and Sanchez, right? It's actually felt quite, I don't know how you guys felt, I didn't feel comfortable watching Sanchez play left wing. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. For me, he needs to be in the centre of the pitch now. He has defined himself as a central cog in our team, and having him track fullbacks to me is a waste of talent, right? So Özil didn't play well, and he didn't play well on what Hugh alluded to. He didn't play well on what Özil normally does well, right? His passing was off, his execution was off, and he got unsettled. There's a period just before half-time when three players literally ganged around him, the whistle had blown for a free kick, and they just kicked him. They attached themselves to our key players. As soon as the game started, the ball went to Xhaka. McCarthy, came whacked up right behind him and just booted him in his Achilles. Now, straight away, if you're the referee, you've got to say, okay, I've got a game to manage here. Because Everton are just going to go around kicking people, right? They're going to go around, attach themselves to our key players and try to unsettle the flow. And that's football. They're allowed to do it if the referee doesn't manage the game correctly. And to be fair, I watched the game again today, and there wasn't too many fouls that Clattenburg missed. I thought he got a bit drunk on the atmosphere, but I don't think he missed that much, right? So, and now this is what my criticism is of our performance, right? Last week, we were talking about Aaron Ramsey playing centre midfield. I think it was in Basel. He was having a bit of a struggle early on. And what I saw was Özil coming deep and trying to connect with him to make sure that we could get some flow and continuity to our midfield. I love it. What I wanted to see yesterday from our wide men was, okay, Özil's being smashed about a bit. Xhaka and Coquelin, I thought, played really, really well. But I want to see Oxlade-Chamberlain not trying to take his fullback on his left side where he's weak, but just connect a bit shorter. You got to manage the game. So what you do is I call it offensive distances. Our offensive distances were wrong from wide areas. They were too focused on fullbacks, and they didn't win that battle. They didn't lose it. But I felt we need to create a different problem. We need to fire in on what I call inside shoulders. Theo Walcott was a bit passive. He was doing a good job with Baines defensively. I know he messed up on the goal, but we lost something there. We didn't look at the game. We didn't feel the game and say, actually, you guys on the wide, we can't find you. Why can't we find you? Oxlade-Chamberlain, you're too wrapped up with the right back. You're too busy tracking him, which means he's won the cat and mouse. You're now tracking him. Theo Walcott, you're doing your little passive jog down the right-hand side. You're now tracking Baines. When are you going to drive inside, create a different problem, shake the defence, make sure what he was doing, Theo, he was getting too high, too early, which means he couldn't be found. So when Alexis got the ball, he couldn't see his boots. He's already against Ashley Williams. Now, Theo's trick is creating races. If you're already standing next to your man, that's what Ashley Williams wants. He wants a standing body he can move around. What Theo needs to do was be a little bit more conservative and join the attack later and then drive the ball in. And then you stress people. We did it once, just after half-time. That was it. And I thought he was naive in his movement. I don't think he was wise in his movement. I thought he did a good job as an all-round right midfielder. But in this formation, with the way Alexis plays, we need him to be much more of somebody that can connect and then be a striker. And I actually felt It wasn't working out for him, and he should have been changed a lot earlier on that side. And if you're going to bring Giroud, I know we're going to get substitutions, but I felt that was a weakness. Not because he's a bad player. He's trying. His worst game is not as bad as it used to be, but it wasn't working out. He wasn't wide enough in his movement, so we need to make a change and get somebody to combine with our front two more.
But then, Clive, people say, where's the retention of width? If you've got your players, you want, obviously, what Ox did against West Ham was to come inside and drive from the inside.
Do you think it's a game of width? Do you think this was a game of width, or do you think this was a battle? We need to solidify our middle. Like, this was a battle. We need to solidify our middle, and our width comes from our forwards. But
Clive, Özil was dropping in deep, so we were playing three in the middle. I know what you're saying about the distances between Özil and Alexis, but if you're having your two wide men come into the inside lanes, and
I'm just saying.
Some people would say to you, "Where's the retention?" You know who I'm talking about. People would say to you, "Where's the retention of width?"
Shall I tell you exactly what I mean? This is about being found. This is about where you stand to receive the ball. What was happening? We were getting too high too early, which meant we couldn't be found. If you look at all the pass maps today, and there's no connection of our wide men at all. None whatsoever. That we could not be found in those situations, or we're not playing to them. Right? As simple as that. And for me, I watched it. We were too high too early. And we need to be a little bit more conservative and join the play and create smaller offensive distances and then push them back. I just felt we were a little bit naive in our wide movement. This is like a small detail, but I think it stopped our flow, along with Everton's tactics, which was to connect with us, attach to us, kick us, win the second ball, turn it into a battle. When we started to build, I thought we were inaccurate in our passing and we were hard to find.
Okie dokie. All right. Let's move on to substitutions. And some people were saying in hindsight they would have started Giroud. Mark, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, Giroud's got a decent record against Everton. He might be more of the centre forward that the likes of Williams and Jagielka would prefer to play against, rather than having to deal with Alexis. And certainly, as Clive said about Theo coming in and giving Williams more of a problem. But it all comes down to the fact of when are we going to try some rotation? And I know, I nearly said it's a funny old game, because it doesn't matter what you say, there is always, a counter argument. So, if you mention rotation, it'll be, and then we play Giroud and bench Alexis and we lose the game and all hell breaks loose and Wenger should be sacked. It's like, well, I think most of us are sensible enough to know that we can't grind the same 11 players into the ground. It's only mid-December. We've got a big Christmas period coming up. We're going to have to start doing it soon because they're just not going to cope with it. So, would it have been a night where you could have gone with Giroud? I think we could have done. To be fair, in the end, we couldn't have done much worse, but we could have definitely gone with Giroud. But we should have still had enough to not lose that game, to have at least got a point. And it was just poor play from us that's really cost us that game.
Hugh, Ozil's chance, should have put that on, at least made the goalkeeper work for it, I suppose.
You're looking for a response. I mean,
it was one of our few chances on goal, wasn't
shocker.
it? Yeah.
I should be scoring that. Never mind Mesut Özil. I mean, come on, lads. Big moment. Big moment. But, I suppose it happens, I guess. So, what can we do about it now? He needs to, I don't know what he needs to do. I mean, who am I to say what he needs to do? But I would have liked to have seen more from him yesterday. I really was quite disappointed. Not even, obviously, him, the corner, it's farcical. Like, what are you actually doing? But more concerning, so his general play. And
what did you make of our lack of actually? I think we didn't get a shot on target till that moment in the 70th minute. I mean, we were really devoid of creative ideas, and I suppose again that comes down to our hub. But we really didn't. I don't think it was Adrian in goal. We didn't really work him that much, did we?
Stecklenburg, wasn't it?
Was it Stecklenburg? Sorry.
Stecklenburg, yeah, made a couple.
You're thinking West Ham, son. You're thinking West Ham.
I would say that we haven't actually been creating that many chances, clear-cut chances anyway, for quite some time. And somehow we've just been not riding our luck, but we've been riding the wave of good fortune, I guess. And really extremely close to being, what's the word they call it in statistics? It's just it's something that you can't keep up. I can't remember what the word is.
Hot streak. Okay, yeah. Are we over something?
We're basically
outperforming.
We're outperforming ourselves in expected goals, and unfortunately, that is not sustainable. There we go. Yesterday was a classic example, I reckon, of just a team that really were effective at breaking up what Arsenal do best. And whilst Alexis, I feel like he's doing 2 or 3 people's jobs, running around like a headless chicken chasing the ball, is taken away from what we've been so efficient at doing. I also think that as far as wide men go, there is actually a debate to be had about whether Oxlade-Chamberlain or Iwobi should be starting, and whether one of them should be going on loan, I reckon, or something similar. I don't know whether we're getting the most out of either of them by spreading them as thinly as this. And I really feel like Iwobi's confidence may have taken a little knock when the Paris moment happened. It was very unfortunate, but to be substituted immediately afterwards, I personally thought it was sort of questionable as to whether that was a wise decision.
He was just to say, Hugh, just to be fair about that, he was going to be substituted for about 3 or 4 minutes. They were waiting to get him off, and at the corner they still didn't take the chance to get him off because of the old, adage about don't make changes. So he was already waiting to come off when that happened.
Okay, so, that actually puts my mind at rest a little bit, because he might not mind as much, but I think he might have been affected by it.
Yeah, well, I think you're right to a degree. The kid is, and obviously he seems to be affected by some of the stick that he's getting on social media. So somebody needs to take his phone away from him pretty sharp, I think.
I just got to say about this as well, like, if by any random chance, and I can't believe that this is the case, because I'm sure you've got very intelligent listeners, but if any random people are listening that are actually giving our own players abuse, when I saw someone's picture yesterday that Ramsey had posted a picture of his kids, and the responses to this thing is fucking disgraceful. Like, have a fucking word with yourself. I mean, we are very quick to throw things aside, and we don't really value these guys as people. I understand that they do make mistakes. Mesut Özil, he's missed a point-blank opportunity where you should be fucking at least hitting the target, mate. But that doesn't give you the right to be abusive. And Ramsey, for example, is someone that he definitely hasn't been the same player for a moment now, and probably could argue, it's possible anyway, has peaked already at the Euros. And it's very easy to write people off, but he's already shown that he's more than capable of coming back. And he is also someone that's brought history to Arsenal Football Club, and that really should be kind of respected, because it's a while ago, but Charlie George is still a legend. And as much as I'm not comparing the two, there's an equal amount of respect that should be given to someone that's brought us silverware, and he's done that. So it's kind of bewildering to see people are you actually serious? Is that really how to support the team, or going to fix anything? Because they are people, and these guys more often than not these days are actually quite young, influential, easily influenced people. So
I think Wenger alluded to taking what's his name, the right back Jenkinson out of the firing line, and that could have been something to do with the crap he was getting on social media as well. It wasn't to the extremities that you saw Iwobi and Ramsey getting of recent times. And Walcott as well. Yeah, terrible. You know, there's nothing. I don't know what I can say to that. But go ahead, Clive.
There's nothing you can say. Right? I'm not going to preach for anybody, but it's really interesting that we hold these guys to such high expectations. But maybe we need to look at sometimes how the expectations by which we behave and by we live, right? And those people who are doing that they're not living the right way. They're not holding themselves to the highest standards, yet we expect that of our heroes. It's just not quite right. It's just not quite right. It's obvious. I don't need to say anything, right? You're all adults, you know. We're all adults on here. This is just not right. And if we think it's gonna sort of make our club better, well, I don't think it is. I want Arsenal to be a place where everyone wants to be, everyone wants to support, everyone wants to play for, and then that doesn't help, right? So it's pretty sad, to be honest.
I want to come back to the football in a minute, but I want to go on to the fact that the response really to this defeat, and it seemed like that, as Clive likes to call them, the crazies, and I've kind of adopted that word. The crazies came out, and it's always a feast or famine with Arsenal, you know. And last night was definitely a famine. Mark, is it terminal? I mean, the second defeat of the season. I know it was the manner of the defeat and whatnot, but it's only our second defeat of the season, second away defeat of the year. You know, it's only early December. I know tonight all our rivals have won, but, you know, there's still a lot to play for, would you say? Whether you believe we're going to win the championship or not, there's still a lot to play for. There's still a long way to go in the season.
Yeah, of course there is. You know, we haven't started the FA Cup. We're in the last 16 of the Champions League with a really interesting tie against Bayern Munich or Barcelona. Whichever one we'd have got, it just would have been so boring. It's unbelievable. And, you know, the league's not over. Chelsea are looking good. 10 wins on the bounce. That's top quality, solid displays from that club after we gave them a hiding. You know, and we said at the time they looked like Conte didn't really know what he wanted to do with them. Well, he sorted that out, and now he's got 10 wins on the bounce. And the next few games are not that difficult either. You know, we've got a tough trip to City, and we need to bounce back from last night. But no, it's not over. But look, I think people overreact about the overreaction. It's people, you know, I agree 100% with what Hugh said about abuse. You know, if you're saying anything to a player, you're a dipstick, to be perfectly honest. You know, I had an argument with a fella last night because he was giving Lee Dixon shit. But, you know, if you're doing that and you're a moron and you just, you know, you need to crawl off back under your rock. But it's just people letting off steam, the bog standard stuff, yeah? That's all it is. It's social media, you know, it's just childish fucking shouting, and now I'm guilty of it. You know, the only person I know that never fucking loses his rag is Clive. You know, towards the end of last season when Hugh was fucking losing the plot completely, I used to love watching his videos. Yeah,
I used to love watching. We used to cry. I think of New York.
I think Clive will be appearing in one of the next Alien franchise films because deep down he's actually an android who's had his emotion parameters to switch right down, you know, because he just never seems to get perturbed about it. But, you know, we all lose our shit in a different way. And I think, yeah, look, every time we have a bad performance or we lose a game, yes, Twitter's going to melt. It's about what happens in the long run, and that's what we've got to look at. And I think it's when people see, you know, that we don't appear to learn lessons well after many, many years of being taught these lessons. I think that's when people begin to lose a bit of hope that this year things will be different because they just assume it's going to be the same. So that's all I think it is.
Clive, Mark made a point about rotation. It's going to be key. I take it you agree. How do you see? I mean, over this period, the games are going to be coming thick and fast. Starting on Sunday, rotate. How would you? If you're the manager, what would you like to see? What would you be looking at?
You know, I posted out before the game that should we do some rotation today, and everyone sort of went, no, don't be silly. It's an important game. Don't treat it lightly. But you know what? We were away in Europe last week. You know, we got a home win with a similar team on Saturday, and we were always going to play our sort of strongest, fastest team versus City. So for me, the moment was last night to rotate. If we're going to rotate, after City, I think we got 8 days off. So the moment was last night. Was it a factor? I thought we looked jaded. I thought we had to work very, very hard in that game. I thought we deserved a point, if I'm honest, that Everton, although they ran about and charged around, it was all great and the crowd was up and saying get stuck into them. They controlled very few periods of that game. It was long ball, second ball stuff. This was not high quality football at all. This was just effort and passion. It was an FA Cup game, right? So, and we didn't quite have enough energy. I've got a feeling we missed a trick with Lucas Perez, actually. I just felt he got a hat-trick. He would have come on versus Stoke, but with Mustafi's injury, we sort of lost that opportunity to see more of him. He just started getting some momentum. I like his wisdom. I like his movement. I like his combination play. I just think there's a time for him to play. And I think it was last night. And I think we missed something there. It'd be interesting to see how he gets used in the next few weeks. But against City, I can see a very similar team to last night. And it may be a toss-up, as Mark alluded to earlier, between Iwobi and Oxlade-Chamberlain. Oxlade-Chamberlain is trying his best to make the left-hand side work. But I just don't think the way he receives the ball and his body shape is quite right. I just don't think he can do it. I think he's a right-sided player or a central player. And I think he does his best on the left, but I just don't think he receives it correctly. So I think we missed a chance. And I just think maybe Lucas Perez should have started last night. I would have liked to have seen Theo safe for Kolarov to run him, to be nice and fresh, to run him down that left channel. But hey, it's gone now, and the moment's gone. I think we've messed up a bit there.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly what Clive says. The team that started last night should have been the team that started at City, because that was it was on paper, given City's form, that was the harder game of the two. Yeah. And so if last night, as you would say, was our first choice 11, which it probably is at the moment, that should have been the team that started at City. With that in mind, you then look and you think, okay, can I make a couple of changes here to give someone a rest? But, you know, this is something that we've seen. It doesn't... the only time we generally do rotation is when it's enforced, because we lose players through injury, generally because of a lack of rotation. But there we go.
Hugh.
Yes, mate.
Champions League, round of 16. We know who we're getting. Looking forward to around that February, March time. I think somebody actually tweeted the Ramble yesterday and said that we should really look at the run of games around that period of time. And there are some really quite hard games, if I remember rightly. I think we've got Chelsea, Southampton, as well as Bayern Munich. Obviously, you've got the double header against Bayern Munich, Liverpool as well. It's not going to be easy, is it? I mean, you would say we're better off than we were last time we met, which was last season, and they're not quite as good at the moment as they were this time last season. But obviously, within 3 months, things can change. But how important is it that we are in a run of confidence by the time we get to February, and that sort of little glut of games there?
I mean, is it ever not important to be in that run of form? Yeah, obviously, Bayern, not the ideal draw, if you ask me, because I know people want to beat the best teams, but if you can kind of get to the final and not have to play the big teams, then it works just as well. But I guess it's do or die. We're really, with the Champions League at least, we're either going to beat Bayern and therefore have the belief that we'll be able to go all the way, or at least most of it. Or we get knocked out and we can focus more on the Premier League, which at the moment I would say is quite concerning. Well, it's showing slightly concerning signs of slipping into Groundhog Day, which, you know, we're all so familiar to that we just become kind of apathetic to the whole thing, or at least that's the way I see it. So I'd say it's a do or die situation. I hope they really do put on a show, because Bayern Munich have shown that they're beatable this season. Although when they're good, they really are good. And right now, Lewandowski is looking very good, and they have a couple of interesting things going on. But I don't think they're quite the team that they were even last year. So on our day, I don't see why we can't beat them. But then we're going to need all these things to fall into place, and that bit of luck and whatnot. And I hope people don't, completely lose their sanity when or if we do get knocked out by Bayern, because they are still a top class team with just incredible players all over the place, and one of the, if not the best manager in the world. I think that's up for debate, but yeah.
Clive, playing second leg at home, got to be a difference maker if we can get some kind of result over there in the first leg.
Yeah, I felt we've always messed up in the first leg, haven't we? And I'm not always a big believer of the second leg at home being advantageous, right? Because it puts a lot of onus on us to attack. If it goes to extra time, the other team's got another half hour to score an away goal. I just think it's how we approach these big games. I've often felt that we are too open in our formation. I'd like to see a bit more of a pragmatic, conservative approach into a 4-3-3 formation, and really make sure we're in these games and we create stress. You know, we're always coming from 3-4-0 down or 2 away goals, or we're never in the tie the second game. I just think it's important second game that we're in the tie. And so we have the chance to, create the moments and win, right? So, but we don't change. We're not pragmatic enough in big games and big moments. Our big game, I've had a look today. Our big game record it's not great. It's not great. It needs to improve. We're doing something wrong in these big games against the top 4 teams, and in Europe, we're not winning enough of these battles. And I do think there needs to be a change in how we approach them. I'd like to see a bit more pragmatism to make sure that we can create moments of stress and not create moments of stress for ourselves where we're forced to come back from 2-3 goals down.
Going on to Sunday then, Clive, big game against Man City. They're missing Aguero, Fernandinho, and I think now Gundogan has gone down injured. I think they're going to be waiting for reports, but from what I can understand, from what I could glean, he was very upset, visibly upset coming off the field. If that's the case, it's massive for them. It's a massive miss for them. And you're talking about big game and our record in big games. I think our record against Man City, all in all, in the Premier League, isn't bad. But obviously, the last few seasons probably is tilted to their side. But how big a miss are they going to be to Pep Guardiola, who's under quite a lot of pressure, in a different kind of sense to Koeman? But it's not the easy ride, or it's not the ride he thought he would be.
Yeah, Pep's under the old, I call it Johnny Foreigner pressure. You thought it was going to be easy, son, but we're going to get stuck into you. You know what I mean? And we're going to test you out. And the fact you've won about 100 trophies, we don't care about that. That was all boosted by money from Qatar or boosted from Bayern Munich money, whatever. So, yeah, he's under that type of pressure where his philosophy is being questioned. And he'll stick to his philosophy, and he'll buy more players, and what he should have done was buy more defenders. They were never, in my opinion, never going to win the league with Zabaleta, Sangria, Clichy and Kolarov. And what he did is he bought a nice little bauble for the Christmas tree in John Stones, which is great, but he's not giving him any men around him to support him. Otamendi's gone missing. He keeps diving into the ball early. He keeps gambling on the front foot and getting picked off behind, leaving John Stones to cover all the gaps. The goalkeeper decision is to be debated, and the fullbacks are all 106, right? So for me, we need to really challenge them in wide areas. As Mark said earlier, we really needed Theo and the Ox fresh for Man City, because I think they could have really caused some problems. And maybe we need a bit more of a pragmatic man approach last night, a bit more muscle. That's all in hindsight, right? When I saw the team, I was quite pleased. I thought there should have been a little bit of rotation, but I fancy us versus City. I think they play football. And if you play football with us and if we're not too tired, I think we'll take them. I really do. I really think we'll take them. Everton worried me more. I've grown up with Goodison Park nights. They're never easy, right? And I know our record's quite good there, but they're never easy. Last night was not a massive surprise to me. And it wouldn't surprise me if he won on Sunday.
Mark, Clive has made some interesting points there. I'd wanted to come to you, ask you about Pep's made some comments recently about how he's not used to defending the second ball, and a lot of the goals, like I think he was talking about a game recently where 8 of the 9 goals were from set pieces. Arsenal aren't going to play the way that he doesn't like. They're going to play the way that we're going to like, that we like. We like people to play football on the floor. They like people to play football on the floor. There's not going to be too much aerial battles and duels won. Are we in danger of thinking, okay, we could, what I'm saying is there a danger of overconfidence or some kind of overconfidence that we might be able to take them just because, they've got 3 of their very key players out?
Well, you'd like to think not after last night, because that must have been a big wake-up call, because they know they're playing a better side on at the weekend than they did last night, and so they, they'd have to be the worst set of complacent players ever, and even I don't think they're that bad. I'm expecting a very, very tight game. I think it will be a decent game of football. And it did make me laugh, all the people having a pop at Pep and that, because it's kind of like, we need to remember he took a year off before he went to Bayern, so he took some time out, and he also took some time to probably study the Bundesliga and that before he went there. He didn't have that opportunity this time. He's come straight into the Premier League, and it is probably the toughest league to win out of the big European ones, just due to the nature of the game and how it's played here. But I think he'll learn. But it will take him time, and I think, Clive's spot on. he bought John Stones, who I still think is a really, really good defender who will come good. I'm sure all these people seem to, having a go at him, seem to forget Tony Adams getting rinsed by Marco van Basten at the Euros. But the other defenders he's got are just simply not up to the same level, and it's very, very surprising that he didn't try and address that a bit sooner. But we might see what happens in January, and maybe it won't be his year this year. Maybe it will be Chelsea's, maybe it'll be ours. But I'm looking forward to it, because at least it should be an interesting game of football, and I certainly think it's one that's more winnable for our team and our mentality than the one last night was, because it's games like last night where I think we often get found wanting. Whereas games like Sundays, I think, will suit us a little bit more.
Hugh, your thoughts on Sunday's game coming up?
I mean, I would say it's a very winnable game. They are missing key players. They are very uncomfortable at the back and very forward-thinking in general. So are going to have holes all over the place. They really like to actually play football, and like it's already been said, most of the time, if we're on point, then we are up there with the best of them. So,
all 3 of you, I'm going to
confident.
All 3 of you, Giroud or Alexis up front. Hugh, first you. Giroud or Alexis up front?
Knowing that you've got Kolarov, Sanya, both kind of aging, if Otamendi is back, is Otamendi back? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he is played tonight.
I think his positional awareness is really questionable. So, plus John Stones, possibly unsure at times, vulnerable maybe because he's so young and inexperienced. I would set Alexis on him. I'd like the explosive agility and whatnot, the unpredictability, and they'll definitely leave holes in behind.
Mark, your front three for Sunday.
I would, as I say, I think I would stick with the team that started last night. I think that's our best 11 at the moment, given the players that we've got fit to start a game. So I would stick with that. Definitely Alexis up front. I think he'll run them ragged. I think it's just a shame that he didn't maybe get a little bit of a rest last night before the weekend. But they've got 4 or 5 days off. And then they've got a break after that before the Christmas games come thick and fast. So hopefully stick with that team, and that should see us through.
Clive, Man City played tonight, so we've got an extra day's rest. Do you think those guys will be able to recover in time for that game and sort of like put in a good performance?
Yeah, we have to. I am looking at a similar team. I'm looking at left-hand position. That's the only one to debate. But I'm looking at a similar team, and I think we got I worry about our ability to recover from football matches. I don't know about you, but freshness seems to affect us more than any other team. Maybe because we watch our own team so closely, right? But I call it Arsenal freshness. We can see it coming. We can see it last night. We could just see us just dropping off in physicality, and it's very worrying, right? And so I think we missed a trick last night, as I said earlier. But yeah, I go with a similar team. Maybe the left-hand side's a debate. Where is it Lucas? Is it Iwobi? that'll come out in training. But and maybe the right hand side, do move the Oxlade Chamberlain to the right hand side and go that way. But I think speed, we've got to challenge them with speed. So I see a similar team.
Cool. All right. That's been an interesting discussion this evening. I hope everybody who listens enjoys it. Let us know your thoughts on all our platforms: YouTube, iTunes, Twitter, website, wherever you may listen to us. I want to thank our special guest, Hugh Wizzy, for coming on. Thank you very much, good sir.
Absolute pleasure, mate.
And also both the regulars, Mark and Clive.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you, Giles.
No worries. That's been a Gooner Ramble podcast. Hope you enjoyed. Join us again. Keep listening.
Do you require any graphic design work done? A North London agency full of Gooners. Oh, and one lonely Watford fan. We'll be happy to help. Go to www.stonecreativedesign.com and mention Gooner Ramble for a 10% discount on your first project.